What's going on, everyone? Tech Me Out here, and in this video we're going to be talking about that new iPad and if you should buy it. So this is kind of more like a rant, so to speak, to talk to some of you out there in terms of my thoughts of the new iPad, and I guess if it's worth the money or worth the investment to buy or upgrade to. So when comparing something like this new 6th generation iPad to an iPad Pro, there are some similarities and some differences. Of course, the first thing being that price. The 6th generation iPad is priced at $329 or $300 if you're a student, whereas the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, which I guess you can kind of consider your entry-level iPad Pro, is priced more so along the $650 range, so you're paying like practically double the price to get the iPad Pro. So for those of you that are curious in terms of what you're sacrificing and if you're gaining anything per se for those dollars saved, let's talk about that. So Apple's lineup for iPads looks a little like this. You have the iPad Mini 4, the iPad 6th generation, the iPad Pro 10.5-inch, and then the iPad Pro 12.9-inch. So the iPad Mini is like the only small version that they offer right now. It doesn't work with the Apple Pencil and it doesn't work with their keyboard. But the new iPad 6th generation will work with their Apple Pencil. So it's like all the bigger iPads will at least work with the Apple Pencil, but it doesn't provide that smart keyboard support in which you will find on the Pro models. You also will find a difference in terms of storage options. So if you need an iPad that's going to be larger than 128 gigs, then the new 6th generation might not be for you. So it's only offered in a 32 gigabyte variant or a 128 gigabyte variant. And to me, this decision makes sense because this is an iPad geared towards students. And I don't know, I don't really feel many students will need more than 128 gigs. However, someone that is more like in the line of trying to use this for a profession might, and that's when you start to enter into the iPad Pros. But the iPad 6th generation is really geared towards those that are in school, and 9 times out of 10, unless they got a lot of media, I think this is going to be more than enough. Now when it comes to the display, it is a little bit lower in terms of resolution when comparing it to the iPad Pro models. It also doesn't have the fully laminated display, so you will kind of notice that slight air gap between the bezel and the screen, which is something else to mention, as the bezels on this particular model are also a little bit thicker than that of what you would find on the iPad Pros. And then powering the iPad 6th generation is the A10 chip, which is a notch below that found in the Pro models. The camera's a little bit lower up here as well. You also don't have 4K recording, and you also don't have a True Tone display. So those are a few of the key differences between the iPad Pros and then the iPad 6th generation. To me, I feel like a lot of consumers probably wanted something that was a little bit cheaper in terms of the iPad lineup, as they didn't need everything in terms of the bells and whistles offered on the iPad Pro, but they might have wanted that pencil support on a, so to speak, lower spec iPad. So not only is this iPad to me good for students, but it's also good for those that need to upgrade their iPads in general, but don't quite need all that is offered on an iPad Pro. All right, shameless plug real quick. If you are ever curious what I'm up to when a new video is dropping, or even some behind the scenes activity of these videos, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. You can find that information somewhere up in this video as well as linked below. All right, back to what you were listening to. So I currently have the iPad Pro 10.5-inch, and before I got this, I was rocking that iPad Air hard because I just felt like it did enough of what I wanted it to do. The Pro was nice and it did a lot of things in which I liked, but I didn't, I guess, feel, you know, pressured to buy it because it wasn't anything I per se needed for what I was doing at that time. But I did like the appeal of the Apple Pencil, and I just wished that it was, you know, compatible with my iPad Air. And it's kind of like Apple has tried to offer now a solution for those that might have been in somewhat of a boat or situation that I was once in at that time, which is you want to upgrade your iPad, you would love to use the Apple Pencil with it, but you might not need everything that the iPad Pro offers. And you might not want to spend all that is required to get an iPad Pro. So I like the fact that they brought out this particular option, especially if you're in school, as it makes it even more affordable and even more of a competitor against any other tablet or a Chromebook or anything in that category that other people might be currently purchasing or looking at. And it's a solid device. I love my iPad Pro. To me, it's like the changes that were brought to the iPad Pro with iOS 11 really made me start using it a lot more than my laptop for tasks in which I normally would go to my laptop for. So for instance, if I'm responding to emails, doing spreadsheets, working on a video thumbnail, anything that was kind of like business or work related, I would always find myself like making my way to my laptop, because it just didn't seem like a task I wanted to tackle on my iPad, because it was just too much going on. And something that's really big to me is the fact that I could have like multi-windows on my laptop. And now that I'm able to have multi-windows and split screen views on my iPad Pro, I find that I use it a lot more now to handle those tasks in which I once would go to my laptop for. I really use my laptop now mostly to just edit my videos, but if I'm sitting back here on the couch and I want to browse the web or handle a little bit of light work, then I will have my iPad Pro nearby. It's a lot more travel friendly, the battery life is better, and I even have this pencil to take my creativity to that next level. If I want to draw, sketch, sign documents, I can do that all from my iPad. It's even at times made me prefer wanting to handle tasks on my iPad, because in conjunction with having all of these ways in which I can multitask, I also have the touchscreen option up here as well. So it kind of starts to give me a peek at what it would be to have a touchscreen laptop. Almost like a little slight peek, you know, don't go too hard on me in the comments for making that comment myself, but I don't know, it just really seems to be more of a productivity beast for me now than it ever was before, because I primarily use my iPad Air to just like watch videos, browse the web, but like anything really intensive, I'm definitely heading over to my laptop. And now I feel a lot more confident in handling those things on my iPad Pro, especially when I'm using my smart keyboard, which sadly won't work with the iPad 6th generation. But even aside from that, I think is really still a great buy. Another thing you'll find different between the two are the speakers. You have 2 speakers offered on the 6th generation and 4 on the iPad Pro. But it's these differences in which I'm mentioning that I feel kind of help justify a larger price tag, and also appeals possibly to a different market. Because as a professional, you're probably gonna want a little bit more in your iPad than someone who's just using it for casual use, or someone who is a student. So I feel like if you've been looking at getting an iPad, now is the time to do so. You can get the Pro if you need a little bit more and like the things in which I mentioned that it has that the 6th generation doesn't have. But I honestly feel like if you're just gonna be browsing the web, you know, using it as a fancy ebook or another way to consume media, handle tasks, handle schoolwork, and you don't quite need all that is offered in a laptop or all that is offered in an iPad Pro, I feel like this is a really great solution. Like, this is something that I could see myself using if I was in school. It seems to do just enough, and I feel like the fact that it lacks the smart keyboard support is not a deal breaker at all. I mean, to me, if I had to choose in getting an iPad and being able to use an Apple Pencil or a smart keyboard with it, I would choose the Apple Pencil. The Apple Pencil just allows you to do more. It expands the options for creativity and really kind of makes you want to explore your iPad a little bit more. It's something different, something new. Like, you can always pair a Bluetooth keyboard with your iPad, but you can't always pair something as powerful as that stylus to your iPad. Like, that unlocks so much, because it's like using an e-pencil, you know, basically. It's so refined, it's so accurate in what it does. And I think it even makes those that aren't artists want to become artists, because you enjoy drawing or sketching on your iPad that much more. I know it did for me, at least. I used to draw when I was younger, kind of teetered off, but it's like using the Apple Pencil reignited that love, that passion that I had for drawing, because it just made it a little bit easier and convenient to have digital art and all these different apps that, you know, are catered towards the pencil to kind of go beyond what you would normally do with your finger on your iPad. So I don't know, I just think the fact that it doesn't work with a smart keyboard is okay. At least you have that Apple Pencil, which is a nice addition to have. So yeah, if you're rocking an iPad Air or that 5th generation iPad, if you want to call it such, and you're considering purchasing the 6th generation iPad, I say go for it. I think you'll be very pleased with your investments. But definitely drop your comments down below, as I'm really interested to hear what you all think about this new iPad as well, and have a little conversation going on there. So be sure to hit that like button before you dip out of here, as well as the subscribe button so you can stay updated. And as always, thanks for taking the time out to let me tech you out.